Okay, this is going to be a reply at Steve Hoca, his last video up. You know, the one thing that I've always known about Mr. Hoca is he don't look into things. When it comes to the political end, I mean, I give him all hands up for what he's done with trying to become a mayor and correct a problem within his community, and I'll never take that away from him. I'll give him hands up on some of the videos he's made over the years. But the one thing that hasn't changed, and I don't think will ever change, is that he fails to look into what's really going on in today's society. And that is so obvious. I mean, you know, he brought my name up here. He brought up the Georgia Guidestones and the Rothschilds again, bankers. Well, when he brings up Georgia Guidestones and Rothschilds, when did I ever say that was responsible for the women's behavior? This comes from somebody who doesn't understand what's really going on in today's society. And that's the reason he says the things he says. And it stands out even now, today, that Steve Hoca still hasn't looked into anything, still just pulls stuff out of his whatever and spits it out of his mouth, okay, without looking into a thing at all. When I spoke of the Rothschilds and the New World Order, which is already here, by the way, you're not stopping the New World Order from coming in. The New World Order's been here for neons already. Okay, neons. You can't stop something that's already here. You can maybe overturn it, but that ain't going to happen either. But that's a whole nother video. But the thing when it comes to women's behavior and men's behavior, both genders' behaviors, you have to look for the causes. The majority of causes are when Steve says, well, he don't buy into any of this was contrived or planned or blah, blah, blah. That's because Steve Hoca hasn't opened his eyes. It's not an accident that the behavior of men and the behavior of women has gone the way it's gone. It's not an accident at all. Never has been. Has nothing to do with the Rothschilds, as Steve Hoca would tell you, that I say. That's because Steve Hoca don't know what I'm talking about. When I bring up the Rothschilds or the Georgia Guidestones, that never had nothing to do with the dating arena. And because he don't understand that never had nothing to do with the dating arena, he goes ahead and just memorizes them words I said because he don't understand what I was talking about. And because he never understood what I was talking about, never asked me or tried to talk to me to see what I meant by it. See, this is what happens when you don't look into things and you don't even come to the party when they're right there and they're willing to talk to you and ask them, Bill, what did you mean by these words? And look for the understanding or that person's understanding of why they're saying what they're saying. If he had done that, he would have found out a long time ago. But he fails to do that. And because he fails to do that, for whatever reason, he seems scared to talk to me. But because he's failed to do that and he's scared to talk to me, he assumes things and his assumptions are totally wrong. He don't even know what he's talking about. And then he runs with that assumption. You know, staying insane amongst the insanity, I noticed I've also done a reply to this. And he said some very key words that Steve Hoca better wake up to. You have to look for the root causes. The root causes, not the symptoms. That's one of the big things I see in today's society that's been going on for years. So many people chase the symptoms, the symptoms, the symptoms. They don't look for the actual causes. Let me give you a little hint of actual causes, okay? This was a video I was planning on doing today later on, and I didn't know I was going to be doing this video at that time. Okay, so let's look at some of the root causes, okay? Some of the root causes. Let's see if I can get this through or clear to Steve Hoca. I'm not saying I can or will, because it's going to be up to Steve Hoca if he wants to understand or look. Nobody can do that for him. Only he can do that for him. Okay, so with that being said, I'm going to give you some just little examples of social engineering. That's right, of social engineering. How they've changed the mindset of people over the years. Okay, I'm going to give you one example right here. Once upon a time, on your jobs, didn't matter where you worked, you had freedom of speech. But through social engineering, that's right, as time went by, we now, in companies all over the United States that you work for, they have a policy and they have a form you have to sign that you will not bring up or talk about their company on social media sites like Facebook. This is engineering social conditioning. Because Facebook became popular and everybody in God's green earth was on Facebook social media sites. And people had the ability to make videos and speak out and give their opinions and could come up on Facebook and give their opinions. Companies become paranoid that somebody might say something about their company or their behaviors. This is not an accident. This is something that took place over years of conditioning people. So your freedom of speech went out the door to this through engineering. See, the social engineering is nothing more than changing people's mindsets and behaviors over a period of time through programming. Human beings are all programmable. No lie, fact. You're not programmed overnight. It's all done in baby steps. You know, when I was young, when I grew up, pornography was not everywhere inside society. There was no such thing as a PC. If you bought a Playboy magazine or Hustler or something, it was in a bookstore and it was covered so that people couldn't see the picture on the front cover. As time went by, they slowly removed the covers from them. You got X-rated theaters started coming in, but it still wasn't prevalent everywhere. But through baby steps over the years and the decades, pornography grew, escalated. Now it's all over the internet for free. They could make millions of dollars on pornography a year off just the internet. They used to do that, but they don't no more. They're handing it out for free. Well, you think that wasn't planned? Do you think somebody just decided they didn't want to make all that money off of pornography no more? That they would start passing it out for free? Because they didn't care about the money no more? You don't think that wasn't planned? Damn right that was planned. That was engineered that way. Now you're going to say, well, Bob, that makes no sense. Why would they do that? To break down society's morals and values. To replace love with sex. You think the feminist movement was an accident? Now I know you're going to think that that was about women's rights, that they were suppressed. Wrong. There's no truth to that whatsoever. The feminist movement was brought into society for two major reasons. Two major reasons only. To get the other half of the population's money by putting them in the workplace. Through putting them in the workplace would help destroy the family unit. And then to help destroy the family unit. This is the reason the feminist movement was brought in to begin with. It was based on a pack of lies and divide and conquer, which is something, once more, I don't think Steve Hoca is able to grasp. That he doesn't have the concept to understand what divide and conquer is, and that it's real, that it's not fake, it's not a conspiracy theory, it's not a mirage, it's not an illusion. It's as real as Steve Hoca climbing in his vehicle and turning that key to go wherever he's going. See, Steve Hoca clearly does not understand me. He doesn't know what I was talking about when I brought up the bankers, because he don't look into anything unless he decides he's really interested in looking into it, which is what he did in his own community, and I still give him hands up for that, and I always will. I don't take away stuff that, it was noble of him to do what he did. It very was. I'm not against Steve Hoca. I do not hate Steve Hoca. I can disrespect the man for not being willing to talk when he knows full well where I'm at, and he's been able to talk to me for years. But instead, he turns his back and moves the other direction. See, he wouldn't be rattling off my name and the Rothschilds or the Rockefellers and the Georgia Guidestones if he understood what I was talking about. He rattled that off because he never did understand what I was talking about, and he never asked me neither. His own stupidity. That's literally his own stupidity. Because when you fail to ask somebody what they mean by what they're saying, then you don't understand what they're saying. You can assume it till you're blue in the face. It doesn't make it correct. You can assume whatever you want. It doesn't mean you're correct. When you don't understand what somebody's saying, or you want to know what somebody means by something, or maybe you think, maybe you should practice asking this person, what do you mean by this statement? These words that you said. And let them explain what they mean by it. Then you have the concept of what they meant by their words, instead of assuming. See, when I talked years ago about Rothschilds, Rockefellers, Georgia Guidestones, that's the political end. Now, was a political end roll into the dating scene? Yes, it has and always has. And yes, it's no accident that we're divided. When Steve Hoca don't believe there was any kind of blah, blah, blah that divided the genders, it's because Steve Hoca refuses to look. Both men and women are both victims of this. That's right, both men and women alike are victims of this. I've explained it on my show 1,000 times over, but obviously Steve Hoca, like always, don't listen. If I took a poll I'll hold this pin up. There you go. This is my palm. On one side of this pin is men. On the other side of this pin is women. Through social engineering, through neons of conditioning, you have lots of different programs that went into it. Feminist movement was only one of them. Your television set, your sitcoms, your movies was another one. That's right, sitcoms and movies was another one. Okay, news, CNN, ABC, CBS, Fox, on and on, was another. Books and magazines that were produced and published is another. And the list goes on and on and on and on. Why do I say this? Because this is how they change people's mindsets. Through everything I just talked about. The sitcoms for years spent making shows like Steve Urkel, Family Matters, and many others I can point out, but I won't even go there. Where the man was dressed in society's eyes on TV set daily, every day, and these shows that people were watching to be stupid, dumb, a failure at everything, and the woman was put into a spot where she's beautiful, intelligent, smart, and that a man could never complete or accomplish anything without a woman, because the woman's the brains of the outfit. This is literally what they threw in your face in sitcoms for years. Now, you think that has nothing to do with nothing? No, that has everything to do with everything. Because it's through sitcoms, movies, your school system, your books, your magazines, that we get conditioned to believe in things that is not true. This is where this came in. You have gender roles in society. Gender roles was created, man created, guaranteed. Okay, so you got to really use your head and be able to think and open your eyes and look at what's really going on. Go back to the 1970. Go back to 1970. I'll tell you, just go back that far even and move forward. Or go back to 1960 if you want and move forward. Look at the behavior and the belief system of people in society in these years. And watch the behavior. About every generation it changes just a little bit. And another generation a little bit more. Another generation just a little bit more. And the next generation a little bit more. Baby steps. Programming, social engineering. Long-term plans made by the people who actually are running this world. Do you want to believe that your president is running this country? That's your prerogative. It's not my fault you don't look into anything. It's not my fault that you're asleep to the truth because you don't look. Or maybe you just don't want to see. Maybe it scares you to see. I'm not going to assume for you and say it does, but I'm going to say this. Steve Hoca is clearly off a point. He doesn't know what he's talking about. One more time. Am I against women? Do I blame women? No. That part I agree with Steve Hoca on. I'm not going to sit here and blame the women no more than I'm going to blame the men. I held up that pin and showed you as a poll. On one side is men and one side is women for a reason. Because through social engineering, they focus certain things towards women. one side of the pole. And they focus certain other things towards men, the opposite side of the pole. And they go back and forth with it. And why do they do that? Because it causes division. Do you think it's just an accident that the divorce rate's where it's at? And there's so many children minus a father or a mother? Do you think that's just an accident? No, it's not. It's deliberate. You pay attention to the laws. At one time in this country, you couldn't just go file for divorce and get a divorce. You went and filed for divorce and you had to be approved for the divorce. Or you were automatically ordered to counseling by the courts and your divorce was denied. That's correct. Go do your homework. That is exactly how it used to be in this country. You had to have good grounds for that divorce. She cheated on you. He cheated on her. But there had to be good grounds, or the divorce was denied. They changed that to no-fault divorce. In no-fault divorce, unless the guy was filthy rich, he automatically lost his children. No ifs, no ands, no qualms. Why did that happen? Well, you're going to say, well, it's because the woman bared the child. No. It was to cause division. Because it wasn't looking out for the best interest of the children whatsoever. You can't say to place the children with the mother is automatically the best interest. There's been so many cases throughout the years that the children would have been better with the father than there was the mother. Think about the children with the mother, who the mother drove the vehicle into the water and let her kids die. Well, that was in the best interest of the children, I suppose, huh? And the cases could go on and on and on. I only gave you one example, and that's all I'm going. And if you was to really look into it, you'd find out what I'm talking about. This still comes back to social engineering, to change the mindsets of the people, which is brainwashing. If somebody told you they were going to brainwash you, they could never do it in a million years, because you would be aware that they thought they were going to brainwash you. But if somebody didn't tell you they were going to brainwash you, and they did it in baby steps over time, and they did it through your television set, your music, your books, your magazines. That's right. Your school system. Do you think it's an accident the government's in control of your school system? No, it's not. Is your government actually running this country? No, they're not. Corporations are. And corporations are controlled by who? Bankers. See, Steve Hoca failed to do his homework like he always does when it comes to the stuff that I've talked about over the years. But he's going to go ahead and open his mouth and bring my name up again, and bring up the Georgia Guidestones, and bring up Rothschilds or the Rockefellers again. And he's going to pin that into the dating scene. So staying insane amongst the insanity said it correct. This is where Steve Hoca fails. He doesn't look for the root causes. It's not an accident. You have to look for the root causes. If I was Steve Hoca's mechanic on his vehicle, and he had bad windings in his starter, so when he turned the key it pulled too many amps and killed the battery, I could do what Steve Hoca does. All I got to do is blame the symptom. The battery's dead, it must be the battery. Let me sell you a new battery, Steve. So a couple of days later, your battery's dead. You get a brand new one. Don't worry, Steve. I'll change your alternator. Because it must be the alternator not charging your battery. So now I'll sell you a new alternator, Steve. Now you have bought a new battery, and you have bought a new alternator that you didn't need because I'm acting like you. I'm chasing symptoms. I'm not going to look for the actual cause. Now, I'm not trying to down him. I'm trying to get him to think. To think. You know, all you had to do was ask me what I meant years ago. But instead, you just got to keep bringing my name out and bringing these things up and pinning them to the dating arena. When I said the dating arena, politics are involved in the dating arena as far as government, they are. But you have to understand how first. And you're not going to understand how first unless you look into things. For one. For two, you could have tried asking me what I meant. That would have gotten you a long ways. But you didn't try that, did you? Not, you just had to assume it, you know. I got to assume it. And because you assumed it, you're wrong. You wasn't right from the beginning. Because you didn't know what I was saying. And you didn't bother asking. That's not my fault. That's your fault. And I'm not taking the blame for you failing to ask. I've been right here the whole time. I'm willing to talk to you. The one thing that I will agree upon with Steve in that video, when he says that women are not to blame, he's correct. But neither are men. You have to look for the cause. To understand why women act the way they act and why men are acting the way they are acting. When you start looking for the actual cause, the root cause, then you will start seeing why the women act the way they act and why men are acting the way they're acting. And when you look for that root cause, then you also see where it's coming from. And then you will discover that it does roll back into the political arena and your media and your school system. Then you'll discover it was no accident. It was deliberate. It was intentional. It's not an accident. It's not just because the wind blows. It just happens to be that way. It's not because, well, as people get older, they change. Yeah, people change, but that's not the reasoning. That's why I said, earlier when I gave you your example about Facebook. Once upon a time in this country, you could use your freedom of speech and talk whatever you want. And you didn't have to worry about your job. Now, you get up on a computer and you make a video. You're safe but not safe. How many companies do you see now already that's happening all over the place where they're worried about you might say something about them on Facebook? And if you bring up your company's name on Facebook, you're out of a job. Or where your company might be watching your post on Facebook, and if they don't agree with something that you say politically incorrect to them, which one more time is social engineering, politically incorrect to them, then they will use this to terminate you from your job. What does that do? Well, I'll tell you what that does. It sets the mindset that if your media tells you something politically, what they want to call politically correct, and you know they're lying to you, and you make a post on Facebook, that is not correct. What media is saying, blah, 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 is not politically correct. That's a lie. That would be like, I'll give you a short example again. Okay? Let's use what happened in Vegas. Or let's use 9/11. Okay? So the official narrative of 9/11 is a bunch of people hiding in a cave with box cutters hijacked some airplanes and crashed them into the trade centers and into the Pentagon. Now, anybody that's got a lick of common sense in their head at all that's looked into that knows the official story is an official lie. But the official story would be what they would tell you is politically correct. So you know it's a lie and you speak up on Facebook and say that, no, that's not what happened on 9/11. Now your job can fire you. This is social engineering in your face. That's what social engineering is. That's just one example. In your face. And you just can't see that, can you? I guess I've got real no more to say here, but the facts are the facts. Because you want to be politically correct to hold your job means now you're in a dictatorship. Where they can tell you a lie and you must believe the lie or else you will be punished. We're in a world where lies become the norm and truth has become the enemy. And in a society where truth is the enemy, it's not going to be long before that society sees its own demise. You suppose that's an accident too, huh? You suppose that's just because the wind blows? No, it's not. It's not an accident. It's not just because the wind blows. There's not a lot more I can say other than Steve Hoca fails a lot of times to look into stuff. I know the man means well. Okay, he sways back and forth. He always has. As long as I've known Steve Hoca, he sways. Can't keep his mind made up. He observes what's going around him in the world by his television set and by being out on the streets. But he don't look into anything. And he don't try to apply reasoning and common sense to what he's saying. And if he thinks he understands something, rather than go ask the person to be sure, he assumes for them. He's been assuming for me for a long time now on the topics he brought up in his last video with my name. Because he assumed for me on that and never asked me, that's not my stupidity, as I've already said. That's Steve's stupidity. His own fault. He has nobody else to blame. So you can give your name Zeitgeist to today's society and women all you want. It don't matter. You clearly don't know what you're talking about. At least you haven't looked into it enough to be saying that. Okay, you can say that's their opinion. It doesn't make it correct. But the one thing that I should tell you out of that video, like I told you already, when Steve told you it's not the female's fault, I'm with him on that. I don't care how many men I piss off right now saying that. He's correct. Okay, it's also not the men's fault. Do men get the short end of the stick? Yes, they do. Do women get the advantage? Yes, they do. Is it the woman's fault they're getting the advantage in the upper hand? No, it's not. This is why you have to look for the root causes and see where things are actually materialized from, where they're coming from, before you can understand what's really taking place. And what's really taking place is long-term plans, social engineering, which is nothing more than mind control, brainwashing, and a whole bunch of programs and different things used to program people, to change people's mindsets and thoughts and the way they act. And they've done a very, very successful job in doing so. And I know it's too deep of a topic for Steve Hoca, but that's not my fault. If Steve Hoca wants to educate himself and actually learn, he can, but that's got to be up to him. I can't do it for him. I do know Steve Hoca means well. Okay, I know that he's not a bad man. And I know that he means well. I know that he has a heart and he cares. He proved that with what he done in his own community. And I still give him all hands up for that, and I always will. I only wish Steve Hoca would take the time to actually talk. And do some looking for himself. And then if you don't really agree, don't have to agree, but don't open your mouth. I like to call it sitting on a fence. You're better off to stay sitting on the fence when you're not sure about something than you are to open your mouth and say you know when you don't. I've done my homework, and I do know what I'm talking about. So I don't even have to say it's my opinion, because I'm not the one that created the problem. But the one thing that's factual is men and women alike are both victims. No lie. And it's not the women's fault, no more than it's the men's fault. It's understanding where the problem comes from that causes men to act the way men do and women to act the way women do. It's understanding where that problem comes from and changing the root problem to get rid of the problem. Would take 3 or 4 generations to even start to see an effect, because it's been done over. That's why I said go back to 1970 or 1960 and move forward and pay attention and move forward slowly and look at people's mindsets. Then look what you're seeing, and then you'll start to see what I'm talking about. But anyhow, I guess that's all I gotta say.